here today with Bess Freedman. She's the Executive Vice President of Brown Harris Stevens, second in command at one of the largest and most respected firms in New York City. BHS did about $4 billion in closed sales in 2016, and Bess is at the forefront of that and a lot more. She's also one of the most outspoken figures in the industry. She talks about everything from how the brokerage industry needs to do a better job of self-governing, to online lead generation, to Donald Trump, and a lot more. She joins me now. Bess, thank you so much for being with me.
Thanks, Hiten. Nice to be here.
Giving up brokerage, where there's there's the up and down, the rush of commissions. Some years you make a killing, some months you make a killing. To go into management, which isn't quite like that. Was that how'd that play? How'd you make that decision?
You know, it just so happened that I was really good at working with agents, and they would come to me a lot of the times for help and support. And I have a legal background. I was a lawyer, and I felt like it was a natural thing for me, and I loved it. And I love brokerage, and I love supporting it, but I think I'm better in this role, much better.
So this is part agony aunt, part counselor, and part strategist, I guess?
Yes, and psychologist. We have to always be a psychologist, too.
You mentioned you came to this from a legal background. Talk a little bit about that. So you were in Maryland, you were an assistant DA.
Yep, I was an assistant DA for a few years there. Criminal, doing, DWI cases, some domestic violence cases. It was, besides the job I have now, the best job I ever had. I loved it. Got to be in court all day. And then I transitioned. I got married, moved to Spain, spent a year there, came back to New York City, and I worked at Legal Aid as a juvenile rights attorney. And then I had children, started to have children, and I never went back to it and got into real estate. And
yeah, you go from representing people who have very little to representing at BHS people who have a hell of a lot.
That's right. It is. It's the other side of the coin. So it was a big switch. But I loved it, and I think in my private life I can do all the good things that I like to do, to help people and support people in a different way.
But in the business, you are in the business of selling very pricey homes to very wealthy people. And Brown Harris Stevens has that reputation. And is this the time maybe to set it? I think of Brown Harris Stevens, I think of this Twitter account that says established 1873.
Yes.
I think of sort of Upper East Side, old money, Gilded Age kind of homes. Is there more to the firm than that?
I think the perception, and you're right, the perception about Brown Harris Stevens is this like old, conservative, stuffy firm.
Like I feel like you're the youngest person at the firm.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm not. It's edgier, it's younger, it's evolved. We have a lot of new initiatives, and we're growing. We are not stuffy. I know people think we are.
That's a perception.
When I was leaving Corcoran to go to Brown Harris Stevens, I won't say who, but someone who works at Corcoran, who I worked with, said, "Don't go to Brown Harris Stevens. It's so conservative. You're Corcoran. You're not Brown Harris." And I thought, gee, is that true? And once I got there, it was wonderful. Agents are agents. There's, all different types of people. And Hall is the leader. And, people also have a perception. I don't know if you know Hall at all.
I just know that he's into farming and that he drives. Well, that's all I know.
He has a farm upstate, and he is a farmer. But, I tease him because there's this perception that, like, he sleeps in a tuxedo, He doesn't dine at Fred's. He's a simple person.
You dine at Fred's?
I do. I'm a little fancier than Hall. He knows that. I'm a little more high maintenance.
You said that the brand has evolved.
Yes, the brand has evolved.
But in terms of what kind of properties are you selling? Are you still aiming at the very top of the luxury market?
Good question. I mean, we do dominate the high end of the market. 1/3 of our sales are under $1 million. People don't realize that. 1/3 are between 1 and 2, and then the other third are above that. But we do these record-breaking sales. We're known for that because we really understand luxury, the brand, and Hall has been so vigilant in protecting the brand.
Some of the properties that you guys tend to specialize in, townhouses, very high-end luxury condos, as I said, have seen a bit of an adjustment in the last, let's say, a year or so.
True.
How are you guys dealing with that?
I mean, it's tough. The market is not as fluid as we would like. I think at the upper end of the market, it's slower. I think we have an enormous amount of uncertainty in the marketplace. I think people are impacted. After the election, we had things were moving. And then again, right now, people are like, what is going on? And so I think that
what's causing that? I mean, there's nothing really that's changed in New York.
Well, I think that we are an international market, so to speak, and I think the people that are buying and selling are not sure if they want to invest here because they're not sure that they want to buy anything because they don't know what's going on in the world.
Are we talking about global turmoil?
Yes.
But isn't New York the most attractive market when there is global turmoil? And there hasn't been this level of turmoil, at least perception-wise, in a long time.
Yeah.
So that money flows to New York. That's the argument that a lot of people make. Seems like you're making a different argument.
No, I agree with that argument, and it does flow to New York. And you know, proof of that would be that 520 Park is doing really well right now. But
I heard there were a couple of very recent deals.
you know, the Zeckendorfs will not be happy if I talk about this too much, but it's doing really well, and there are some important deals that are happening. But I still think we're impacted by what's going on because we're not as busy as we usually are. There are some projects that are doing well. But having said that, we're not, you could talk to people at Element, at Corcoran, the market is slower.
So volume is down, time on market is up?
Yeah, you know, everything has had its impact. And I think, you know, we're in a very divisive environment right now. But I think that will improve. I really do believe that.
On the business side, having someone like that is a little bit unpredictable and is a very kind word to use, but is that impacting, are you hearing about investors saying we want to hold off for a little while and see what happens? You
know, we have had, not investors, but we have had sellers and buyers. We had a seller in particular downtown say, you know, we're frightened. You know, we want to sell and get out of here. We want to leave the country. You know, I have a friend who's leaving the country. You know, so there are people that are concerned about what's going on. So that inspires selling, you know, but then you have to have somebody who wants to buy that property.
And then in terms of your own business, how much of a split is it between resale and new development?
You know, Brown Harris Stevens is known for its resale business. Our new development division, which is run by Steve Kligerman, is a much smaller piece. We've never really focused a lot on new development. You know, Erin Aries had a great project that she did at 551 West 21st.
Is that the Resnick?
Yes, that's right, Scott Resnick's project, which is gorgeous on the High Line. And we do little boutique, you know, sometimes smaller but high-end luxury, but that's not, we really dominate its resale.
But do you guys feel then like you missed out on the 2014, 2015 rush with the new developments and firms like Element and Corcoran were cleaning up at that time?
They were, and they still are, but that's not what we focus on. And you know, I'd love to at some point create a better division of new developments, and it's just not what we do.
So we're at a time when you're saying that the volume isn't as high as it could be or as it should be. Are brokers doing different things now to get noticed and to get business? There's been a lot of talk, I mean a lot of talk in the last few months about StreetEasy and Premier Agent. There's been a lot of talk about online lead generation, not only from StreetEasy, but there are other firms that are set up to essentially buy leads, farm out leads to their agents, and then make money that way. What's your thought on what's going on with StreetEasy and Premier Agent and how it's going to impact the industry?
StreetEasy for a long time really added a great service to our industry, and I think that, you know, they had the neighborhood specialist and they vetted the agents before they let them become a neighborhood specialist. But the Premier Agent program does not do a good service for the consumer, for the buyer, for the seller.
Why is that?
There's zero vetting process. You know, if you can pay, you get to play. So if you are a seller and you give your listing to someone at Brown Harris Stevens and you're on StreetEasy's website and someone buys a zip code and is on that and someone clicks on Premier Agent, you know, you don't know who you're getting. You know, the agent could be from Ohio, which has happened. They have what if they don't know anything about co-ops? And so you have to be familiar with our market to service the seller, to service, you know, the consumer. And so I think that it's unfortunate that they don't have a vetting process.
It's kind of happening in every industry. If you look at publishing and media, you have Facebook, you have articles that you're reading on Facebook. You don't know where the hell they came from, and people are looking at them and absorbing that information. But it was a big factor in this past election. You're essentially seeing a mirror of that in brokerage, right, where you're getting agents that may not have anything to do with the listing, may not even live in New York, as you said, and may not know anything about it. But look at the results that StreetEasy's had with the program. It's incredibly popular. So what's that? I mean, it's here to stay.
You know, well, it's here to stay. But I wish, you know,
I don't think you guys can do anything about it.
Well, we are. First of all, you know, the Department of State really protects the consumer, which is why we have agency disclosure. And, you know, and right now, REBNY met with the Department of State. I mean, there's some letter writing campaign going on, but but REBNY met with the Department of State, and we're waiting and hoping that the Department of State is going to issue some sort of a guideline that StreetEasy will have to adhere to.
But this is about speed. So in the time that, you know, the brokerages have come together and talked about this, in the time that they've talked to REBNY about building an MLS, in the time that they go to the DOS, StreetEasy's already captured so much of the market, and the DOS is notorious for doing nothing for very long times. I think you guys know this. I think at the back of your mind, you know that the DOS is not going to be the savior.
No, I don't think they're going to be the savior. I'm hoping that because they are vigilant about consumer protection, or they, you know, should be, and they care about it, that they should do something that at least makes this a better service for everybody. I think that they have a responsibility, and I've had many talks with Susan about this. We don't see eye to eye about this. You know, and they also have something on there with StreetEasy where you click and it says be wary of dual agency. And I think that that's really disingenuous for them to have that, because they're trying to, you know, say warning, warning, you know, don't go to the exclusive agent because you need to have your own representation. Well, we have those discussions with the consumer, and we say to them, do you want representation? You can have representation. You know, it's really, I think it's confusing, and it doesn't benefit everybody.
Do agents at your firm use Premier Agent?
I knew of one or two of them that have, and there may be more. But as a company, we are not supporting it. We're not paying for it. I know the pressure is on. I've heard that agents are pooling together money, like, you know, 10 agents, and then they're, you know, getting Premier Agent. So, I mean, you can't prevent it. But I have to take a side. I can't say, yes, I don't support it, and then spend money on it because I'm getting leads from it. So I'm trying to do the right thing and follow this through and see what happens and get StreetEasy to do it right.
Is the industry at some point going to take responsibility for creating the situation? Because for a long time, it was really easy for you guys to have your listings appear on StreetEasy. It was like, why not, right? And this is where the buyers are, the consumers are, the renters are. You authorized or didn't, or if not authorized, did not stop StreetEasy from amassing that collection of listings. You have the ability to block your listings from StreetEasy. But you haven't done that.
No,
not just you, but
everybody.
the industry.
We're all accountable. I mean, I think, I don't know what year it was 2001, I think, when the industry kind of had an opportunity to come together and they blew it up and it didn't work out, and I'm not going to point fingers. And, you know, most real estate environments have an MLS. We do not. And therefore, we created StreetEasy, you know, by not coming together as, you know, all the companies coming together and sending our listings to one source and then dispersing them out to other places. We don't do that. And I think that hurts us, and that's why StreetEasy is so successful. So
now we're in a situation, what's the triage model? What's the damage control you're going to do? So all the firms have finally said, okay, we need to address this. And they're in talks with REBNY to create an MLS. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah, I can tell you that I'm on the RLS board with a lot of colleagues, and we're working hard. We've hired 3 new people. In our budget now, we have an extra, there was $2 million that we can now use to help to build this system. And so we're working towards that. When will it be? I don't have an ETA on that.
Is there a rough timeline at all? Or?
I'm hoping by the end of the summer.
By the end of the
summer. I know you're looking at me, and you're very doubtful.
I mean, if I'm doubtful, I think it's for a reason. I don't think REBNY and technological innovation really go hand in hand. So what's this? So the brokerages are coming together, and then REBNY's taking the lead on developing this?
Well, the brokerages are coming together. We're meeting, and we're putting the mechanics of it all together. I'm not saying that they're going to necessarily create the front end and do this incredible technology. That's not what they're there to do. What they're there to do is create a community environment to get everybody together to do the same thing. If we send all of our listings together and control our information, then we'll be in the driver's seat. Right now, we're not, because now you don't know who's sending what to StreetEasy first, so it's just being in control of your information.
We've been talking a lot about the Brown Harris Stevens brand, right? It stands for something. One of the things that it stood for was Christies in New York, and now it doesn't. So last week, or was it last week?
It was last week,
after a 30-year relationship, Christies pulled the plug on the relationship with Brown Harris Stevens and decided to form their own firm.
you know, we've had the affiliation with Christies since 1995. And, you know, Hall spearheaded that, and it's really was a marketing tool for us. And you know, they were a great source of, you know, when you would go on a listing presentation, you would say, "Hi, I'm with Brown Harris. I have the Christies affiliation," and that signifies to people luxury, you know, and it was helpful to us.
Is that in New York or globally? When you
globally, because of, you know, Christies is, you know, an art auction house, and people recognize it everywhere. We were in the process of renewing our contract with them.
At a higher rate.
Yeah, it was much higher, but we were working it out because we felt it was important and we wanted to keep the affiliation. You know, we had always questioned and thought, you know, Hall had always said that he thought they were going to open up their own brokerage, but they would deny it. They
said they weren't going to compete in New York
they said they
guys.
wouldn't do that.
Right.
So, and they always denied it. So, but we were always a little bit skeptical. So we were really surprised when Friday, you know, they called the owners. The CEO called the owners and said, "Hey, we're opening up our own brokerage house in New York City," and at the same time sent out a press release. You know, so I think that was a little underhanded. You know, you have a relationship with someone for 22 years. I think you owe them a little bit more than that. So they're opening up in, I believe, in Rockefeller Center. So we were not so surprised that they're opening up, but the way, the delivery and how it was handled was a real slap in the face to a 22-year relationship. And I think that the CEO handled that really poorly.
And what do you think? What do you think is in store for them? They have that affiliation with luxury as well. They have the global connections, and I think their strategy is, hey, we sell art to these people. We sold a $140 million sculpture to Steve Cohen. When Steve Cohen buys a house, we're probably going to go, and he's probably going to come to us. That's the bet.
I think that's what they're thinking. But, you know, real estate, you know, to work in New York City, you need to have some knowledge. And you need to know what you're doing. And you need to understand brokerage. They do not. It doesn't mean that they won't learn or work towards that or try to hire the right person to do it. But it will require an enormous investment to create a real estate brokerage in New York City, and I wish them good luck. But it's not like you just open up.
But a couple good poachings would do the trick, no? Like you had Compass that came in, and then they picked up Leonard Steinberg, and then they kind of went from there.
Yeah, but you need a leader too to run. I mean, the brokers also need someone who's going to guide them and offer them support. So you can hire a handful of agents, but who's leading the charge? So I'm not doubting that they'll be there one day, but it takes a lot of money, time, and knowledge, which they do not have. I mean, I don't know if they have the money, and the time is up to them. But the knowledge, they have to hire somebody who has it, and then hopefully they can recruit some agents.
It's probably a time to explore the larger question of brokerage alliances, and you know, Christies and Brown Harris Stevens, or Sotheby's and its affiliates, or does that matter? Does that matter when you're actually selling product in New York? You guys have the connections. You guys have the agents, and you have the knowledge. So why all the hoopla about paying? And I've heard, and you're probably not going to confirm this, but I've heard it was a million, you know, millions of dollars a year for that relationship. So why?
You know,
a marketing tool is just, what does that mean?
I mean, it had meant a lot. I mean, through the years. I mean, 22 years ago, it was, you know, it was something, and it meant a lot and helped us to grow. And there were some agents that are passionate about that, you know, having the Christies affiliation and using it when they would go on these huge listing presentations and say, you know, and mention the Christies affiliation and the global presence. And I think some sellers were caught up. It's almost like going to Tiffany's, you know, they got that in their head. And so I think for that purpose, it was meaningful. But surprisingly, a lot of agents were like,
But don't you want to be that Tiffany? Don't you guys want to evoke that vibe of being the Tiffany's? Right?
That's what we're. But so this is kind of, again, this is the upside to the downside, because we were all like, you know what, we can really focus on us now, Brown Harris Stevens, and we are that brand, and we're just going to be laser focused on doing all the things that we do, which is sell real estate.
You're Bess Freedman, 4 years in
at
BHS. You're essentially second in command of the company. Are you being groomed to take over?
You know, it's so many people ask me this question.
I'm sure. There's a reason.
It's all the time. People ask me this question, and then there's this rumor that people say, oh, you know, is Hall retiring and you taking over? it's really, you know, I came to Brown Harris Stevens, joined Brown Harris Stevens because it had grown so much, and Hall needed someone to help him. And he always says, if I get hit by a bus, who's going to be there? So that was the thought process. Who's going to be here for the future? So I joined Hall, and he and I run the company together. I don't want him to ever go anywhere. He is one of my, you know, favorite people, and he's an incredible leader. And, you know, we're working together. If he, you know, were to go somewhere, you know, retire, hopefully he doesn't in 10 years or whatever that is, and would I stay there and be running the company? You know, most likely, yes.
So what's next? Which is the next market?
I think right now, Miami, Palm Beach, the Hamptons, and New York, our plate is full. I mean, if something, you know, we thought might be a good place to land, we would do it. But right now, we want to focus on these markets.
West Coast doesn't make sense for you guys?
Nah, not interested.
There's money there.
There's money everywhere, but I think you get watered down when you spread out.
There's also commission splits when you go to LA. I think the standard is 85, 15,
It is,
90,
and
10.
Miami is the same. I mean, the splits, I don't know how it's harder to make money when the margins are so thin.
And here, what you guys are, I mean, it depends. It goes anywhere from 60-40 to 70-30. That's typically around where it revolves.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
I mean, New York is much better on splits than other places like California or Florida. I mean, we're more reasonable.
But when these markets kind of blend together, and it's happening a lot with these firms, kind of cross-section of firms, do those things change? Is there pressure in New York for commission splits to change in favor of the broker?
Well, you know, we don't really adjust the commission splits too much. I mean, we have to pay bills, we have to pay office space, we have to pay, you know, we have to pay salaries, and so we have, you know, the company does have to make some money, and so the agents, I think, you know, we offer the absolute best splits in the industry. We offer a 75% split. And you know, some companies, even though they offer it, it's not published. They do it via special deal, and we don't do that.
So you're open about the fact that you offer 75?
It's published. I mean, that's what we offer to an agent, and everybody from John Berger to whoever it is can seek the same opportunities, but it's based on merit and your achievements. Nobody has a special deal.
So if commission splits aren't changing, non-competes certainly are at the firms, right? I think that's something that, I don't know if the Compass Corcoran thing triggered it all, and the Compass Brown Harris, but there's been so much talk in the last year and a couple of years about non-competes. Where do we stand now in the industry? Are they actually being enforced? Are they being set with a greater degree of rigor? What's going on with them? Well,
I think you're right that they became more prevalent, definitely when Compass came on the scene. I think people are moving around.
All that venture dollar is coming in and pulling you guys out.
I think that it made everybody wake up, and so they have to be reasonable in their scope and you know, their geographics and their time frame.
But philosophically,
okay,
can you tell an agent who is a freelance talent,
you
basically?
can't ask agents to sign a non-compete. I think the non-competes are pertinent to employees. So this is managers. I think there were a lot of managers that were working without non-competes. I think when, you know, Compass came, I think a lot of companies realized, oh, I'm going to get stricter, I'm going to be more difficult. And so I think the non-competes are not a good idea because, you know, I think just from a policy standpoint, people should be able to work. If they are not being treated well where they are, or they can make more money or do more, they should be able to go to that place and do it. And I think non-competes stifle people, and they create complacency. So I don't.
But is there anything to the argument that trade secrets? I mean, our way of doing business, you absorbed it, and then
there is a balance. There is a balance. So I do think, obviously, that you have to. There's a fine line, and so we have non-competes. We've accepted that. I think if you went to court, I don't know how much they would be upheld. But I understand a company, we have to protect our assets, but the assets in real estate are the agents. So non-solicits make complete sense. I support that completely. But if you have a star, a manager who's doing a great job, recruiting agents, doing everything, the company should be smart enough to compensate that manager well, to tell them that they're doing a great job, and allow them to have growth. If they do that, that manager's going to be there and be happy.
Do you, Bess Freedman, have a non-compete?
I don't know if I should answer that, but yes, I do have a non-compete. And I haven't spoken about this before, but I had a non-compete when I left Corcoran to go to Brown Harris, and I was benched. I had to sit out for a few months. You know, it was very, you know, hush-hush. I didn't say anything, but it was unfortunate. was not allowed to earn income during this period of time, and but it was such a win-win for me because I'm in such a great position, a better company, in my opinion, and a better place overall.
Okay. So you're saying you've evolved. You're saying you've transformed. The Christies thing is done.
Right.
The market is changing. There's no room for those towers that people are trying to, not as much room, let's say. So where do you see the company going the next 5 years?
You know, I see the brand getting a little edgier.
Okay.
And
are you going to do those full-page racy spreads that some of the other?
Only in the real deal.
Okay, fair enough. Bess Freedman, thank you very much.
Great, Hiten. Thank you.